Paul, what was your reaction to the NCAA sanctions against Tennessee?
I feel, Jimmy, that Tennessee's survived a disaster. You and I go back long enough where just hearing it was humiliating for the school and shameful and all these words that would have normally sounded very actionable, but that's not the world we live in anymore. And I think a lot of people confused today versus what these allegations were prior to NIL, and in the end, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. The money is irrelevant. I know that to all of us who don't have that kind of money laying around, but to the people that help Tennessee, it's not going to hurt them. The scholarships are already factored in, and ultimately the person a couple of people are hurt. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt takes the biggest hit. He won't be on Nick Saban's staff next year, or maybe ever. And I also think, and I'm sad to say this, I think it tarnishes the legacy of Philip Fulmer, who is someone I really respect immensely. I haven't always liked everything he's said or done, but I was thrilled to see him come back. And I was hoping that he would be in that job for a long time.
The job that Josh Heupel has done at Tennessee, you, as well as anybody, knows what he inherited and the obstacles in front of him. How would you grade the job he's done at Tennessee?
It's spectacular. And I was like a lot of people when I heard the hire. I was nonplussed. Okay. I mean, I think if somebody else had hired him, but the fact that his old boss hired him just seemed to deaden everything. And maybe we were all still in shock over what had transpired a couple weeks earlier, but I've never seen anything quite like it. And I've heard that from other coaches. I remember I was off air with Kirby Smart once, and we were talking about another school. I think it was Auburn last year in Athens. He said that they had to go out and do something like Tennessee did with Josh. I mean, that's quite a compliment coming from your biggest rival. And the dismantling of Nick Saban's defense in the final seconds of that game is beyond anything I've ever seen before. Now, I'll try to take out my emotions, having been a graduate of Tennessee and spent most of my life in Alabama. The game does matter to me. And I mean, I was dumbfounded. That's a clinic that I don't think you could ever replicate. That was genius.
I want to go back to the sanctions. Do you think now that if the school cooperates with the NCAA, they will not get a postseason ban? Is that apparently what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very consistent, as a lot of people have, on Donde Plowman. I thought she took a courageous stand. There are a lot of people I know were saying, that's not how you do it. You don't admit to anything. But by doing that, I think she set the tone. I think then the commissioner and others came in to support them. And I think if the NCAA had slammed them, it would have just first of all, it may have been challenged, which wouldn't have bothered me. I mean, the NCAA is a worthless organization. And all these, the fact that, I heard the NCAA president a couple weeks ago, we were in Washington together, and he got up and essentially blamed the NCAA for NIL. I'm like, you're the head of it. I realized he was the governor of Massachusetts at the time that all this went down, but the NCAA did this to themselves, and that's why I don't get carried away with all the NIL going to Congress. But I would have gotten carried away if that's the same organization had punished a school that did everything it could to rectify a terrible mistake.
I want to ask you a couple of football questions. Georgia, they've won 2 in a row. How difficult will it be for Kirby Smart to three-peat?
I think it'd be incredibly difficult. There's just something that always happens. I mean, we saw it with Alabama 10 years ago. Could you have ever figured out that one of the wildest plays in college football history would derail them? No, because they had the best team. So, I mean, I think history is a big thing. It seems like they won 2 really quickly. But I think it's possible, but I would probably take somebody else if I had to put my own money on it.
Alabama. I was reading the other day where they were rating the quarterbacks in the SEC. They said Alabama's quarterback rates 10th in the league. If Alabama's quarterback ends up this year ranked 10th in the league, can Alabama win the West?
It'll be difficult. And I think it's such an unknown. And, doing a show where you ask the same question to 10 different people who cover Alabama, the answer that I've been hearing, which was Jalen Milroe, now is like off the board, and you're hearing Ty Simpson or Tyler Buckner, who came in from Notre Dame. And I don't think it's impossible because they have so much talent there, Jimmy. I think if they can find a guy fairly quick, they don't need one for week 1. They need one for week 2 in Texas. If they find a quarterback that can get comfortable, I think they can do it. But other than the quarterback position, they are really solid.
Do you think Nick Saban likes the idea of LSU being picked to win the West over his team?
No, and I'm still not convinced it will happen. I mean, it may be because I know a lot of people, maybe like me, who in the end you're going, I'm going with Saban. I mean, I think back to debate class in 11th grade. I could not win the debate saying, well, you have to vote for Alabama because of Nick Saban, but I will.
Well, and I'm sure he's going to use that. What are your thoughts on LSU and the job that Brian Kelly did in his first year winning the West?
Yeah, I mean, it was. At times it was an ugly season, but the beginning, the end. I mean, we forget that they lost to Texas A&M, but the Alabama game, it wasn't. The Alabama game wasn't really. That's the one we talk about. It was the week before against Ole Miss that saved their season because Ole Miss, had a lot of momentum going into there, and they threw the game away. Couple of fumbles, and by winning that, I remember I was down there, I think, that week, and all of a sudden the place just came alive. And I think, they were not a great team last year, but they made some really phenomenal plays, and I think, again, quarterback. Daniels was phenomenal, and this year they have running backs and receivers and some just spectacular defensive players.
Paul, you were at the SEC spring meetings when they couldn't decide long-term on whether to play an 8-game or 9-game SEC schedule. They're going to come out with a long-term schedule pretty soon. Where do you think it'll land?
I think it will be 9 eventually. I thought, just the current state of the world affected it. And I feel comfortable in saying, I work at the company that a lot of people are pointing to at ESPN, and I think that will settle down, and I believe it will be 25. We'll see it go to 9 games. It should be at 9 games. I didn't think it was the end of the world though this year. It is going to be different next year for everyone. There's so many new factors. As much fun as we all have getting ready for the season, I've heard as much about 24 this year as I have about 23 because everything changes. There won't be who's going to win the West. It's a 12-team playoff. Not who's your top 4. I don't know. I hope nobody asks me who my top 12 will be next year at media days.
I had to look and figure out, wait a minute, is this year they're doing away with divisions or not? Everybody keeps talking about that.
It's just so. The SEC just had to. Greg Sankey gets a lot of credit, but he deserves it because he read the room and he said, if he wanted 9, he could have gotten 9. He's that effective, but it wasn't worth the fight.
Do you like the idea of Oklahoma and Texas coming into the league? Is that a bonanza for the SEC?
I think it is. And I remember in 2010 when Texas and Oklahoma almost went to the Pac-12. The fact that Texas is larger than life. Forget Oklahoma, and I'll get to Oklahoma in a second, but there's so much energy with that program. They're so big. As a guy looking for the story, the egos of Texas and Alabama in the same league is going to be priceless for what we do. Oklahoma's a little bit of a concern. Their fans are nervous about it, and that surprises me. And I know what Oklahoma's record is, but this is a bigger step for Oklahoma than Texas.
All right, one more thing. I've retired, sort of. I'm surprised that I beat you to the punch.
I am too, and I am most, and I said this when you retired. I've been such a big fan, and I keep my closest friend is a lawyer in Knoxville, and he's one of your biggest fans. So I get every one of your articles, every one of your blogs, every one of your interviews. So I was so sad to hear that, and then I saw you a couple weeks later. I felt better. I want to retire like you retired, to do whatever you want, but still have fun doing it.
There you go, Paul. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Good to see you.
My pleasure.
All right, take care.
Thank you.